People in first world countries have been bamboozled. You are not in a first world country. You're being told you are because there's some... I just got back from the Philippines and I felt inspired to make this video because I want to share my thoughts on some things that how life is like in the Philippines, especially since my wife is Filipino, and also the experience, how it contrasts to life in a country like the UK, where I'm also an immigrant and that I've been living for about almost 7 years. Okay, this is my experience. Firstly, I want to say that yes, a lot of people have the impression that Philippines is this country with happy people having a good time and everyone's smiling, everyone's laughing. Yes, that is true to some degree. It is true in cases where people who, have some money to their name, they can enjoy. Especially people like me, when I do go on vacation there, it is a more enjoyable time because I do have access to money. I do have the finances to do things which I can explore particular areas and go particular places, which a lot of people cannot do. But there are people that do it, and there are people that can do it, and that do have money. They live decently, they have nice, decent cars, they can afford these things, right? There are those people. But generally, a lot of the people that I know personally in the Philippines don't have this access. Now, that is kind of that's the precursor to what I want to share in this video, because I want to share about other things that if you do have money, of how the experience that you can have. And the experience that you can have is very, very good. Compared to England, for example, even if you have money, the experience is still mediocre, especially when I'm talking about not being like a millionaire, but even if you're just above, let's say just above middle class or middle class, you can't have the same experiences as you do in the Philippines, because the quality in the Philippines is better in some instances. And in instances of, for example, things are of more value there, especially when it comes to materialism, it's of more value. In the UK, like in England, no one cares that you drive a G-Wagon. No one cares that you drive a Rolls Royce. And that's not everyone, but when I see these things in the UK, it doesn't mean anything to me. And I'm talking about a materialistic point of view. I do measure people's success and etc. off of their materialism. I do. And off of their materialistic things that they own. I do. Their possessions. I do that. I'm not going to suggest that I don't. But in some cases, I'm aware that it's not applicable. But in the Philippines, you just get a better quality. For example, when you go to a shopping mall, or you go to, you go to an SM, a shopping mall in the Philippines, right? These places are pristine. These places are of good quality. You're not gonna go there and have a really terrible experience, seeing just random crowds of troublemakers hanging around, people just being really dirty and all of these types of things. Yes, the Filipino people don't all have the same sense of cleanliness as people in Europe do. I'm not gonna lie. In terms of, there's a majority, and there's a big percentage of people that do litter and do pollute, and they're not even aware of it. They just do that. I've seen people that I personally know, they'll drink out of a plastic bag with some cool drink and a straw, and I don't care that it's plastic, but they'll just throw it into someone's yard, and obviously that's not good because someone needs to clean that up. A lot of people don't have that. But when it comes to the public areas, generally it is pretty looked after and pretty clean. They take pride in these types of things, especially when it comes to shopping centers, malls, etc., where there's people and these types of things happening. And also in terms of safety as well, every shop, every store has a security at the front. And in the bigger shopping malls, they might not be at every single store, but they'll be at the store where there's high value items, and they'll be at every entrance and exit. When you step into there's security. There's two security at every single entrance of the entire. So if it's a big shopping center, a big shopping mall, there's gonna be at least 2 security guards at every single position, at every single entrance, and some even have a metal detector. And if they don't have that, they have a metal detector waiver, that one thing that does the metal detecting. And if you're carrying a bag, they always look in your bag. They always check in your bag, because you could have stolen stuff, you could bring something dangerous in, whatever the reason is, they always check your bags. in the UK, the thing is, what I'm trying to say here, in England, you don't have that same experience. When you have money, when you go to a shopping mall, it feels like a terrible experience unless you go to these high-end shopping malls. But like, why is the high-end shopping malls like it's only for like these, like the upper higher class, right? Like the normal middle class person is not getting that same sense of safety. So like I was mentioning, with youth hanging around, like in England, it's bad. Like you will go to a shopping center, shopping mall, and there'll just be these like teenagers hanging around with their pants low, like either like playing music or like smoking weed or like just looking like nuisances to public. And I get it, you know, I've also been young, I've also been there, I've also enjoyed myself, you know, I've also done these things. But like, they kind of want to intimidate people because they kind of feel like they need to obviously be this gangster image, right? Because that's what it's like here in England. So you got all these youngsters and teenagers trying to be all gangster, not being gangsters, but trying to be and trying to portray and intimidate people just by being a large group and doing what they like, kind of to say like, oh, like you can't really tell us what to do. And that's the attitude as well. In Philippines, you don't really get that. Like, you will go most places and they'll just be normal teenagers. Like, no one's trying, they'll dress cool and they'll be cool, but they're not trying to like intimidate people and do things that are, you know, outwardly like showing people that like, if you know, disrespectful, arrogant type of ignorant type of attitude. They don't have that. So it's like, it's a different contrast. Like, you wouldn't understand unless you've been there, but I'll try to explain as best I can. So in terms of England, like these things, like the shopping centers, especially public areas, they just happen to just have a bad vibe about them. Unless you go to some like secluded area or like countryside, and that's a different story. But the rest of the time in cities and towns, you just have these youths all around, and like these crackheads as well, just sitting around town and just doing a whole lot of nothing. Whereas in Philippines, that's not very common. Like if you go to poorer areas, there'll be, you know, people that are more, you know, that are all poor, but that's the poor area. Like if you go to any other area, you don't just catch them hanging around. Yes, there's kids that ask for money, but it's not like these groups of crackheads just kind of hanging around town, because they're not allowed to, because the police will police it. The authorities, the security, they will chase these people away and make it safe for everyone else. Like there's no reason that there should be crackheads in front of the shopping center. Like there's no reason, unless they're buying something. There's no reason. That's why they're not there most of the time. I was in Mall of Asia, SM Mall of Asia, one of the biggest malls in Asia, one of the biggest malls in the Philippines. And I saw one homeless guy in the morning, but he was minding his business. One homeless guy, he was just eating his food. You know, obviously, you know, he was sitting around and maybe hoping for people to help him out, but generally, like, he was just there. And then later on in the day, I think security must have, like, obviously come and approached him, and then I didn't see him again. So, and I didn't see anyone else of this nature. So, everyone else that I see is just normal people going about their day, trying to live their life, trying to be friendly. And even if they're not trying to go out of the way to be friendly, they're just living their life, bro. Like, no one's trying to be a nuisance to public. Unlike in England, where that is the case a lot of the time. Because I also feel like it might be like the discipline thing as well. Like in Philippines, you will be disciplined either by the police or by your parents, or, you know, whoever's the elders will discipline these youths, instead of just them running around doing their own thing and just ignoring what everyone else is saying, and just like I say, being a nuisance to society. So that's one of the big differences that I've seen in the Philippines. In terms of safety, I feel much safer when I'm in the Philippines, I'm not gonna lie. Like when I go to Manila, I feel way safer. The only time I feel unsafe is crossing the road, because obviously they don't stop at the pedestrian crossing. The pedestrian crossing is an optional stop. In Europe, it's mandatory. So if someone steps on that damn line, that car's gonna brake. He's gonna stop. That, like, a pedestrian has right of way. In Philippines, that's not the case, okay? If you cross the road, that's the only time I feel kind of unsafe, is crossing the road. That's it. And I don't cross the road much, especially when I'm in the province. There's no danger. And then the only other danger I could think of when I'm there is like either being like caught in like a massive flood and natural disaster, which is terrible, and these things does the Philippines. But generally, I feel safe in terms of people. Like I don't feel like someone's gonna try to pickpocket me, someone's gonna, try to rob me if I'm in a specific area. Like, never do I feel unsafe. Obviously, I always have my guard up. I was born in a third world country. I was born and raised in South Africa. We always taught to be alert, be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings, analyze people, analyze their body language, all of this types of stuff. This is how we grow up in South Africa, and this is how we ensure our survival in South Africa. So I was raised like that. No matter where I am, whether I'm in freaking Malaysia or I'm in Dubai, doesn't matter. I'm always checking people out. I'm always, my attention is really on what I'm doing, and it's more on my environment, because I need to make sure that I'm moving safe. Obviously, that's just how I grew up. That's just my natural tendency to do that. A lot of people don't have that, and that's okay, but I'm just that type of person. But you wouldn't even really need that in Manila. The only time I would say to watch out would obviously maybe be nighttime, but generally even then it's kind of, I would say it's alright. I haven't really been out at night much, but the times that I was out anytime late at night in areas where like I was like the only foreigner, there's like loads of people, I never felt unsafe at all. Never. Because the consequences for any type of crime in the Philippines is severe. Like, you're not gonna just get off lightly and be able to do that again. Like, we'll handle that situation with justice, like 100%. And furthermore, just the difference in the quality of people as well. In England, there are a lot of people that come here just to work and are working immigrants that just come here. They're like, okay, I'm going to be here for 10, 15 years. I'm going to save money. I'm going to go build a home back in my home country. And then what they'll do is they'll do that, save up money, build their home, maybe even start a business back home. And they'll move back home after like 10, 15 years. So they are like these working immigrants that they come here to make a better life for themselves back home so they can go there. Whereas in the Philippines, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do work overseas. But generally also, they also want to go back home. But they like, no one is coming from England to go work somewhere and then coming back to live here. Like, a lot of immigrants don't do that. Like, a lot of immigrants don't want their life here. And there are some that unfortunately have been here for years, and they just say that, it is what it is. Like, we just need more money, and etc, etc. They might have made certain choices in their life that are different to others. But generally, most immigrants that I've spoken to personally, only from my experience, they don't want to live in England long term. But most people in the Philippines want to live in the Philippines. A lot of people, even that do go work overseas, go work abroad, go work on the cruise ships, they have the intention of coming back home, again, building a home, making something for themselves so they can go live there and live there comfortably, because they understand that the quality of life is better when you do have these resources established. The quality of life in the Philippines is better in that degree. Things are just more affordable. It's easier to get around in some ways. Obviously, there's a lot of traffic, especially in cities. Any town and cities, there's always traffic. That's just the thing of it. But it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to get around. Like, you could cheaply travel around in the Philippines if you take very, cheaper modes of transport, buses, etc, etc. So, and these things are generally also safe. When you go on a bus, when you go on it's safe because, again, either there's heavy security at the train station, where I'm talking about the security have weapons. They're ready to mow someone down if something goes wrong. They're on point. Not like these lame train station, no judgment to the people, but judgment to the company and the job and the country. These lame people at the train stations, like, wearing a vest, and like, they can't stop no one. Like, someone's gonna jump the barrier, like, they're not nothing. You're not stopping nothing. Like, that guy that's jumping over the barrier will probably fight that guy. Like, there's no one stopping nothing around here. In Philippines, you're not doing that. The security guard has a massive shotgun, and there's not one of him. There's many of them located around the entire station. When you get into the train station, you've already been metal detected or with the scanner, and you're going through barriers, and they watch every single person going through there, that they scan the card that they've paid. There's no hopping the barriers there and all of this type of stuff. That's not happening. So my point being that when these people are going back to the Philippines because the quality of life is better. There's more security. There's none of these drug addicts, troublesome nuisance youth hanging about trying to be all gangster. You know, the shopping centers, the shopping malls are cleaner, they're better, they have way more variety than England has. Way more variety. And generally people just get about with their day. From the jeepney driver to the tricycle driver to the Grab driver, they just getting about their day, and they're not trying to make your life hard. They're not going to do anything that's going to make your life hard. Or, you know, people doing random stuff, like in London, like there'll be like some homeless guy trying to spit on you. Like, imagine you a higher earner, let's say just slightly higher middle class, and you want to have, you know, decent experience because you work at a job, you obviously earn good money. Now you walk down the street to your local store and you just walk past a group of teenagers that like look like they're gonna attack you any second, and then you walk by a crackhead that's trying to spit on you, and then there's someone taking a dump on the sidewalk. What quality of life is that? Even if you do have a little bit of money in Philippines, if you have a little bit of money, like, or you have little money, you will have the same experience. Yes, you might not go to the shopping mall as much, but when you do go, you're gonna have the same experience. It's gonna be a good experience. It's gonna be a safe, clean experience. Now, the Philippines is not perfect, but in contrast to England, for example, I'm telling you, a lot of people in first-class countries are bamboozled. You have been bamboozled. You've been tricked into an illusion that the first world, the Western world, is so amazing and it's so good. And it's like so advanced, and bro, it's not even true. When you see these other places, you know, like Philippines, I can't speak on other places because I've never been there myself, but I can speak on the Philippines. And if that's an example of Southeast Asia, then I only see progression. When I see England, I see decline. Not from what the news says. I don't care what the news says because I don't watch the news. I don't care about what the news says. But what I can see with my own two eyes, what is happening, what is going on, people in first world countries have been bamboozled. You are not in a first world country. You're being told you are because there's some important companies that have established themselves in England, in London specifically. So they are making the country look good because there's a lot of, you know, money. This is true. But in these places, these supposedly third world countries, things are way better, and they're still doing better even though there's corruption. There's only more corruption like Philippines because there's people that are paying off people, and it's easier to hide in the system, but they are getting exposed, and these things will be exposed. And once corruption and stuff ends in the Philippines, or drastically, the Philippines will 100% can be a livable first world country in some ways. It might not be that, but the quality will feel like what a first country should feel like. Look how many people talk about, you know, Singapore, Malaysia, all these different places. People in first world countries have been bamboozled. When you go to London, it feels like you are in a bloody dangerous... It feels like I'm back in Cape Town. But Cape Town's just better. Like, Cape Town has way more... Yes, I'm not saying it's not dangerous. It can be very, very unsafe. But it's the same like London. Like, there's no difference between London and Cape Town, really. Yes, there's more crime in Cape Town, but the feeling is the same. There's certain parts of Cape Town that are grimy, but that's because you expect it. Because I'm in a third world country. This is what I expect. But when I'm in London, London is this magical place, and it's so great. But there's someone shitting on the street. You know what I mean? Like, something's not adding up. Something's not adding up. I say that I'm honest about these things because I've been in England for nearly 7 years, bro. 7 years, okay? I've been in Philippines twice. If you add up the time I've been in Philippines, basically 2 months that I've been in Philippines. But I can really tell that because I have the real experience. I don't have the tourist experience because my wife's Filipino. So I see the real day-to-day of these types of things in 2 different provinces. So I can see what's going on. I've been to various shopping malls from Manila to the province, to the other province. I've been to these places, I've traveled to some islands in the Philippines. The experience is the same. Yes, you might not be able to get a job there per se, like you do in England, but if you set up something from a country where you're better, and you set up something in the Philippines, you're gonna live a good life. But if you did that same thing in England, you're not, because your quality is not gonna be as good. As examples mentioned, I'm not gonna talk about it again. Anyways, stay tuned, because I'm gonna be dropping more differences between places like from England, Philippines, South Africa, all these different places, these supposed third world countries, and any places that I go to, I'm going to report on, I'm going to do these things. So stay tuned, because I'm about to drop more things on the Philippines and differences of life compared to England. And yeah, stay tuned, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, bruh.